Hey friends, hi. Well, this Doc South here. This morning I was watching, one of the, how like on the morning news they'll have some light story, where you don't want to go, you don't, you can actually watch it and smile instead of all the other stories where you want to go hide under the bed. Yeah, waiting for the big one to hit. Well, they had a nice light story of evidently a kid and his dad were at a ball game and they were out in the outfield, the seats out near the outfield. Home run ball came. Dad somehow got it, yeah, and gave it to his son. And the son looks at the ball and looks at his dad and figured, well, I guess that's nice, but I guess I'm supposed to throw it back. So he threw the ball back onto the field, or tried to. Luckily, he didn't quite hit the field. Dad's having a cow, a home run ball from a yeah. You can get it autographed later. That kind, yeah. And he's looking at the kid like, well, luckily someone else in the stands found the ball, brought it back up to the kid. I guess it was on the jumbotron or whatever. Okay. Well, I can give you a similar situation. Yeah. Luckily for this kid, it worked out. My story, I don't know. What can I tell you? It was, let's see, this all starts about probably somewhere back in the 1930s. Okay. My grandparents and my father and his immediate family, in the summers, they had a log cabin they stayed at in up at Lake Lenape in North Jersey. Consult your map, you'll see. Okay. Near there, not too far away, I'd say maybe 10 miles away, was Babe Ruth had a place, evidently, and or he'd go up there to stay. I guess, get away from the city heat and all that, and relax a bit. I guess between games, he could take the train out there, and well, it turns out that Babe Ruth, I guess, for some local charity up in that neck of the woods, was going to do a little meet and greet. And, or maybe the fire company got him to come down and sign a few autographs. Who knows? But he was going to do an autograph thing. And my granddad said to my father, who was the oldest son in that family, hey, come on, we'll go up and go meet Babe Ruth. What do you say? Well, you didn't have to ask my father twice. He thought that was pretty cool. And my father always loved baseball. And so did my Uncle Don, my father's kid brother. But Uncle Don, unfortunately for him, either had chicken pox or the measles. He couldn't leave the house. He was under quarantine. Well, you can imagine the crying. Okay. You can imagine the crying. And but my granddad, being the diplomat he was, said, "Look, Don, we'll go there. We'll see if we can get Babe Ruth to do something for you. Okay, just special for you. How's that?" Well, okay, I guess. Uncle Don's, oh, yeah. Well, you can imagine. So anyway, off they go. They meet Babe Ruth, long story short. As my father's shaking hands, he, again, not being a shy person, he says to Babe Ruth, "Hey, Mr. Ruth, my kid brother, he wanted to be here too, and he loves hearing about you on the radio, the ball games and all that. And do you think could you do something for him? He's homesick with the measles, and or is there anything?" And Babe Ruth said, "Well, yeah, young man, I got an idea here." And he hollers to one of the people with him, Babe Ruth does, and says, "Hey, give me a baseball over there. Yeah, that one. Give me that one. And you got a pen?" And next thing you know, Babe Ruth signs to Don. It wouldn't have been Uncle Don, just, "Hey, kid, yeah, Don, whatever." And Babe Ruth signs the ball, gives it to my father. "Now, you be sure you give that to your kid brother." My father said, "I will." And true to form, my father did. My Uncle Don was pretty happy about that. He had a Babe Ruth ball, and he kept it on his dresser uh, most of his life. Now, sadly, Uncle Don died in the late '60s. He had taken ill and passed away. And well, when we went to clean out his stuff, we take care of his uh, all his final arrangements and all. We found the ball. Found the ball. My father told me this, relayed the story. He says, "My gosh, I didn't think he kept it." Well, there it is, a Babe Ruth autographed ball. My father takes it home, puts it in the drawer, top drawer of the dresser, in he and Mom's bedroom. Yeah, yeah, and there it sat. And no, yeah, every now and then I'd get it out and look at it. So, oh, look at that thing, huh? Babe Ruth. My brother, he'd kind of look at it too, but we never paid it much mind. We weren't baseball fanatics. My brother and I. If it was signed by if it was a record signed by the Beatles, we might have been more interested. Yeah, but the but so there it's at, and well, I remember. I guess it was maybe 20 years late. Not even 20. Maybe 5 years later. I was sitting around the house. We were having supper at with Mom and Dad, and I said the conversation came up, and I said, "Hey, that Babe Ruth autographed baseball." He says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, whatever happened to that? Do you still have that?" And my father says, "Oh, no, no." He says, "I gave it to the neighbor kid, little Walter." You gave it away?" He says, "Yeah, yeah. What are you gonna?" Yeah, he says, "Yeah, it was kind of in the dresser. No one seemed to want it." I said, "Well, yeah, I guess you did the right thing." And so I guess one day I was talking with Walter, and I said, "Hey, that ought," and I didn't want the ball back or anything. I said, "Geez, did you ever that Babe Ruth baseball?" And Walt said, "Yeah, the Babe Ruth ball." Now this is all down in Chester, New Jersey. The Walt's family lived on Main Street in town. Right, they were neighbors. We lived on Main Street too. I said, "Hey, that Babe Ruth ball my father gave you?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, whatever happened to it?" And Walt said, "Well, I was batting it around, about 4 years ago, shortly after your father gave it to me, and I hit it a little too hard, and he said, long story short, it went down the sewer." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it went down one of the storm drains, and that's it. Never saw it again." I said, "What? You got an autographed Babe Ruth baseball?" Even back in the 60s, they were worth something. I think now you could buy half of California with it, right? With the proceeds. And I mean, there's only so many of those things. Well, there's evidently one that's been down in the since about 1966 or so. Has been in the storm sewers down in Chester. I would imagine it's not going to be worth too much anymore, but doggone, it's there. Unless maybe some lucky guy working on cleaning out the sewer pulled it out out of the sludge. Yeah, maybe. But by then you probably look at it. Yeah. Here, throw this on the truck. Get rid of it. Dump it. Where you dump? Okay, good. Yeah, good spot. Over at the landfill. So, friends, I guess if you can find where they used to dump the sludge back in the 60s in the town of Chester, well, I guess bring your shovel. And maybe it's still there. Again, though, I don't imagine it'd be worth but more than about $1. But it's no one ever found it, to the best of my knowledge. At least if they did, they ain't talking. Probably someone found it and said, "Oh," and off it went. So it's probably down in probably some flounders swimming over it right about now. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. A nice little story about, riches. Well, I guess the moral is riches come and riches go. Yes. Okay, we'll see you later. Thank you. God bless. Keep your eyes open, though. Okay, bye now.